Welcome to the Survivor's Cocktail.
This is a salute to every survivor showcasing two different stories each week.
But with a twist. However you connect with the outside world, find us and follow along each week for visuals, audios, and more.
We won't leave you thirsty. Follow us for themed episode cocktails.
And mocktails. Survive and thrive, ladies and gents. Welcome to this week's episode of The Survivor's Cocktail, Episode 2,
Teqkillya With Kindness.
We made it to week 2.
Yes, we did. And I'm super excited to bring this week's episode where we focus on the survivors and those who saved them.
Yes. Yeah. Literally, mine is actually the survivor is awesome, but really more my story is the people who saved them, which I'm so excited to tell you guys about.
I'm super excited for yours.
I'm super excited for yours.
So mine, I'm very excited because I feel like I'm taking a more succinct focus on a very well-known story.
Love it. And I have a story that I bet my bottom dollar, unless you're from my hometown, you've never heard of.
And we're so excited to bring this to you this week on episode 2 of The Survivor's Cocktail, Teqkillya With Kindness. So stick with us and survive and thrive.
Survive and thrive. Here we go. So have you ever heard of Rescue 911?
I literally have not.
So this is new to me too. It was a show based off of like 911 calls and rescues. It's in the name, you guys.
Checks
it's
out.
amazing. But it was hosted by William Shatner, who I'm a really big fan of. So
Motherfucking William Shatner.
I know. I'm so excited. But the story I'm going to talk about, again, I kind of mentioned it. So this happened in my hometown of Klamath Falls, Oregon, which is located in Southern Oregon. And it got national recognition, including this Rescue 911 show. So I did get all of my images that I'm about to show you off of this, basically screenshotting the video the whole time.
So if you're tuning into our other social media platforms, if you're not already watching on YouTube or Facebook,
Yes.
we've got visuals over there. So if you want to see visuals while you're listening, head on over to Facebook or YouTube. But for those of you who are just listening...
Which this one, I like highly suggest. I mean, if you're in your car listening to us, awesome. Love it. But either go check out this actual show, which is on YouTube, and I'll have the link for on our post on Facebook. We'll put it places so you guys can find it. But it's really cool because it's a reenactment. So all the pictures that I'm about to show you are a reenactment. Keep in mind, some content warning. This is about child abandonment, and it gets a little rough, and even the visuals in the reenactment are a little hard. So just want to put that out there, but do keep in mind this is a reenactment. This isn't actually taping what happened at the time. So let's get it started. I'm so excited about this one. Okay, so December 7th, 1989, it was a cold day in Klamath Falls, Oregon. And just a little side note, Klamath Falls is not like what everyone pictures Oregon to be, this like humid, rainy thing. We're high desert, so we're actually pretty cold. We're more known for snow than we are for rain. And especially, I mean, any months between October to, it can even be through Easter. I've hunted eggs in snow more times than I can count. So it's very cold. And especially in this December time, it's usually below freezing. And there's usually snow on the ground. So, and for this day, the high was 31.
Oh.
So it's cold. It's chilly. And it's really dry weather too. So it's the kind of chilly that like hits your bones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's cold. So 2 friends from high school who are pictured here, Ken Murdoch and Ken Leppert, are working on a machine off of Highway 140. So they went to high school together. They also work together. They get their job done and they decide to head down and go back into town. And it's about noon right now. As they come down the road, Leppert jumps out of the truck to open up the gate. So Highway 140 is a pretty well-known highway, and it's best known because it connects Klamath Falls to Medford. And Klamath Falls is pretty small to where, for us, like when we wanted to go shopping, that's where we would go. We would go over to Medford or the Rogue Valley. And then for like high school sports, they were in our district. So it's a very well-traveled road. But where they are is kind of like a off-road, and it's gated.
So would this be comparable to like a Forest Service road?
I think so. That's how it, and it sounds like they were actually working on like a Forest Service machinery. So that's That's what I can tell. But anything that's like gated is usually pretty obviously private.
Yeah.
And not super well known. But so as he's opening up the gate, he looks up and he sees this blanket. And he's about to walk off, and again, Leopard's out of the truck. He's opened up the gate. Murdoch's about to pull through, but something grips Leopard inside, and he's like, you know what? I need to go see what this is. This is weird. And something's pulling him to investigate a little bit more. Because again, I don't think this road is like known for just anybody traveling on it.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah. So when he gets to the blanket, he starts to open it, and he sees blood.
Oh.
So he immediately shuts it. He's in shock. He's scared. And so he runs back to the truck, and he looks at Murdoch and he says, come see this. Tell me it's not what I think it is. And at this point, he's a little bit like stunned. So Murdoch actually gets out and kind of leads the way back to the blanket. And Leopard's kind of just trailing behind him. And as Murdoch gets there, he starts opening it. And as he opens it, he sees a placenta. He sees an umbilical cord. And then he sees a baby attached to it.
No. And this is just a reenactment.
This is yes, again, okay. This, if you're looking at the visuals at this point, this is a reenactment. This is not actual of what they saw. But so attached to it is a gray blue baby. And Murdoch immediately runs back to his truck where he has one of those truck radios. And he radios into his office. And he says, you need to call 911. We need a sheriff out here. He's not saying what they found because in his head it's dead. This baby's dead. He doesn't really want to talk too much about it. He's in shock, saddened, so, you know, what's going on. He has no idea. And so he tells her to call 911. And we actually have the 911 call and reenactment video for you guys.
Oh my gosh. So if you're sensitive to 911 calls and if it's something that you do not like, I would recommend you either mute or skip ahead. Probably no.
And I will say this one is a pretty light 911 call, just because it's not really, everyone's kind of confused of what's happening at the moment. And they're also not, it's not like the victim saying, come save me. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different, but yes, totally. If you're not a fan of 911 calls, do not listen.
911 emergency.
This is Sharon at Cascade Timber Company.
Mm-hmm.
I have a mechanic and some people up by the burn that was up at the lake. He just called in and he said to please hurry with a sheriff or a state policeman up to that gate that goes in. He's very shook up. He said they have found something.
Okay.
And he sounds extremely agitated, and I've never heard him that way before.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's not even the whole thing. I'm pausing here because I want to explain kind of what happens next. So at this point of the call, again, Murdoch's not sharing what they found because again, they think the baby's dead. They're shocked. They're thinking we're off of work.
Ugh.
And they stumble upon this.
Yeah.
So while Sharon is still on the phone with the 911 operator, Murdoch goes back to the blanket and they hear whimpering. And then Murdoch looks down and he sees eyelid flickers.
Oh.
And they realize, oh my God, this baby's still alive.
Oh.
There's a chance. And so Murdoch runs back to the truck, and this is the second half of the 911 call.
Okay.
Are you still there, Sharon?
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, Jesus, okay, will do. He said someone has dumped a baby out there. It's still alive. They need an ambulance. He said they're going to wrap it up if you want to meet him somewhere along the line. He said that baby's not going to make it much longer. They need an ambulance.
Okay, we'll get somebody out there, okay?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Crazy, right?
Wow, dude.
Crazy. Yeah. And I love this part of the show because you actually hear her genuine reaction. I mean, honestly, for a reenactment, this whole episode is pretty good. It's not like over the top cheesy. And also these are guys, I kind of know one of them. My dad knows him pretty well. I think they actually went to high school together as well. These are guys that are not into limelight. Like, this is something that's new to them. You know, I think Murdoch even in the video says people are asking me and calling me a hero, and it makes me want to climb under a table because I'm not a hero. Like, so they're not into this. So they're very like playing it low, which is good.
Yeah.
But again, that video shows her genuine reaction to what's happening, which is really cool. But anyway, so at this point, they know they can't just sit and wait for the ambulance to come to them. So they kind of jump into action. They first grab the baby off the grass because it's cold, it's wet. And they notice the blanket's just soaked with blood, it's freezing outside, there's water everywhere. So immediately Murdoch starts taking off layers of clothing, and he takes off his jacket and he curls the baby up in it because he said, just gotta get this baby warm somehow. He then scoops up the baby and they run back to the truck. Leopard jumps in the driver's seat, and Murdoch jumps in the passenger while he's holding the baby. As they get in, they crank up the heat and they head down the road. Murdoch kept talking to the newborn, saying, "You're gonna be okay, little guy." With the warmth of his voice, the baby starts grabbing his finger.
Oh, stop it. Okay, grab your tissues.
I know. This one is hard. I'm going to try to get through it. Trying to get through it without trembling. Because it's a gripper for sure. So while they're on the way to the hospital, they are able to actually flag down first a sheriff and then an ambulance. So, and this, if you're looking at the visual, this is the actual road that they're traveling down. And so as Murdoch is going to the ambulance, handing the baby over to the EMT, he's having a little bit of trouble letting him go.
Oh, of course.
So they bonded, and now he feels responsible for the protection of this little guy. And he said, "I just kind of wanted to take him home and snuggle him and make sure it was okay." But he hands him over to the EMT, and the Kens are actually left on the side of the road, not knowing if the baby is going to survive or not.
Just reeling from that experience, I can imagine.
Adrenaline, going crazy, and they're just standing there. Probably like, first of all, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And second of all, now all they're thinking about was, will this baby survive? Did we do enough?
Yeah.
And at the same time, the police are actually heading back to the site to possibly see if the mom's around, because it's extreme. I mean, the baby's still connected to the placenta, to the umbilical cord, looks like it was just born. And so their main concern is there someone else out there who is in need of help? But while they're on the way to the hospital, which is Merle West Medical Center, the EMT is working on him, and he grabs a hypothermic thermometer, and the thermometer will go down all the way to 84 degrees to read. Well, the baby's so cold, he cannot get a read on the hypothermic thermometer.
Oh my goodness.
And as they travel down the icy road towards Merle West Medical Center, and this is very much what the roads, again, if you're looking at the visuals, look like this time of year.
Being from Southern Oregon as well, I can vouch that the roads on these Forest Service roads, these back roads down in Southern Oregon, in the mountainous areas especially, are not maintained at all. They're not graveled, they're not salted, even for normal conditions.
Yeah.
Let alone icy.
It's funny you say that, though, because this is what you're looking at as a main road. This is Lakeshore Drive. This is going around the lake.
Oh my goodness.
So our roads they're rough because our weather's rough.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is going right around Lakeshore Drive here, which is the iciest road at that time of year.
Oh my god.
You always expect black ice on that.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
But while they're traveling to the hospital, the baby actually suffers a cardiac arrest.
Oh.
So they get the baby. The staff at the hospital are prepared. They're ready, but they have no idea what's coming into him. They don't know how bad it is. At that point, he doesn't have a heartbeat. Yeah, and they go to intubate him right off the bat, and his jaw and mouth is so stiff that they can't get it in.
Oh my god.
But they continue, they work on him, they are finally able to intubate him. The pediatric doctor who is on the episode actually says, "I went in there, I let my people do their work, but I thought I'd be coming in a lot sooner to pretty much pronounce him dead."
Oh my gosh.
So, It was looking very grim, but they kept at it and he kept fighting. And actually 2 hours later, by 3 p.m., his temperature was brought up to 94 degrees and his heart was beating on its own.
Yay!
So he's rounding the corner, and he actually does survive because this is the survivor's cocktail.
Survivor's cocktail.
Yes. And they gave the baby the temporary name of Benjamin Kenneth Forrest.
No. I
Super
love that.
cute. Yeah. So again, the hospital did everything they could, and it's pretty much everyone's saying it's a miracle. It's a miracle this baby survived. 2 weeks later, after the baby was found, he was actually adopted. And when people interviewed the Kens, they asked, do they think this was an act of God? And Murdoch actually replied, well, it does make you believe in Santa Claus. And there's this cute little part where on the Rescue 911 episode, Leopard comes in and he said, that was a pretty cute thing to say, and Murdoch's not cute at all. Just taking that chance to do a little punch at his friend, which is funny and cute. But as the story, kind of came out, it soon became the town's baby. Thousands were trying to find a way to help baby Ben, setting up money trusts and sending clothing and toys. And while the Kens, were I don't know if they were actually on the side of the road at this time, but they don't know what's happened to the baby. So they call into the hospital, Leopard does. And he said, oh, I'm just checking on the baby that came in. And the person on the other end says, are you one of the Kens? And he goes, yeah, I am. And he said, well, why don't you just come up, because you're welcome here 24 hours a day. You're this baby's family.
No.
They do take the opportunity to come visit him. They visit him pretty much every day, and they become really attached to the kid, and they love him they fall in love with the baby. Mm-hmm. And this is actual
Baby
Ben.
Aww.
Super cute. Again, the news of the story went everywhere. It got national attention. Because it was amazing. They were calling it the Christmas miracle, basically. So just a quick little snippet. His birth parents were never discovered. And when interviewed, Leopard said he tried not to focus on the fact that someone did it because it just makes him angry. And he focuses on the fact that they were able to save him and find him a great home.
Aww.
And honestly, most of the articles written, it really wasn't a main focus. They were focusing on the fact that this baby survived, and instead of the horrific events that led up to it.
Yeah.
And it's hard because I started speculating, but we have no idea the situation.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. So he is currently 29 with 2 kids and a wife. And back in 2016, the local news in that area went back and interviewed Leopard and kind of had him relive the event. And they were really trying to see if they kept in contact, and they did. So the Kens actually had a pretty big part in his life. Leopard even went to his graduation and his wedding.
Aww.
Yeah, very, very cute. And Ken had said that everyone who knows him finds his personality infectious, and he's always liked. And when talking about the adopted family, he said he's lucky. He's got a wonderful family and a lot of siblings. The parents live for the kids. If he could have handpicked from a million different parents, he wouldn't have done any better. So just all the situations totally came in place. And I kind of want to end it with words from Ben himself.
Okay.
And this is the part where I tremble a little bit, but I can get through it. I can do it. But when he was 10, he wrote them a letter talking about his life. And he had stated that he enjoyed football, math, basketball, swimming, and drawing. He gets along with his 3 brothers most of the time. I love that. And he likes to go to Seaside with his family. So pretty basic, 10-year-old stuff.
Yeah.
But then the way he ended it was, I'm lucky, I have a lot of good friends, I have a good life, and I hope you all do too. Isn't that so sweet?
Pure
sweet.
kindness.
Pure kindness. And that is just the crazy, amazing story from my hometown, baby Benjamin.
Cheers to Baby Ben.
Cheers to Baby Ben and the Kens.
And the Kens.
The Kens are
yay!
awesome. And then here are the links again. So if you go on YouTube, you can just search Rescue 911 Baby Ben, Klamath Falls, Oregon, and the video will come up. And then you can also go to kobi5.com and search for Baby Ben and the follow-up later on video will come up where Leopard talks a little bit more, and you can tell he still just glows from the story, which is really sweet. And then the only other place that I did get some good information is the Lewiston Tribune.
Oh.
So a lot of good stuff.
Wow. Great story.
Thank you. I'm very passionate about that one, obviously.
Makes
because
sense.
it's from
where I'm from. Yeah.
I'm proud of where I'm from.
Well, that leads me right into mine for this week.
Yes.
So my cheers is for Lily Rose Lee. Now, this name may not immediately ring a bell to most people because she was previously known as Michelle Knight. Okay, so right at the top of this, I do want to throw out a couple content warnings. There is mentions of abuse, kidnapping, sexual assault, torture, forced abortion, and also childbirth under kind of horrible circumstances. So I just want to put that out there that this episode could be triggering for some if you've gone through trauma in the past. Please listen at your own discretion. So, Lily Rose Lee, at 21, in August of 2002, Lily, then known as Michelle Knight, was kidnapped by Ariel Castro. She had been on her way to a court appearance to try to regain custody for her son, who was actually in the care of DHS of the state.
Mm-hmm.
So, after she was found, which, spoiler alert, she's my survivor.
Oh.
After she was found, this is kind of fucked up. Law enforcement actually admitted that they didn't put as much enthusiasm into her search because they assumed that because she was an adult and that day she had a court appearance for parental custody, they assumed that she just, out of anger, abandoned her son. So 15 months after she went missing, she was removed from the National Crime Information Center database. Only 15 months after going missing. And they admitted that they didn't investigate her disappearance as much. Sorry, I just got a little bit upset at that.
Right.
So, Ariel Castro had offered the young woman a ride, and instead he took her to his home. She was only about 4'5", so he was able to overcome her and basically imprison her in his home. He held her there for 11 years.
Oh my God. 11 years?
11 years.
My son's not even 11 yet.
Over a decade.
That's crazy.
So in those years, she was abused, she was starved, she was tortured, and she was imprisoned in his home. And if you go to our social media, you can see the visuals, and it looks like an AVG run-of-the-mill,
Totally average, yeah.
Totally average home. In that time, she herself recalls that she was pregnant at least 5 times as a result of him raping her. And every single time, he would force an abortion, miscarriage, essentially, by beating her, starving her, slamming her into walls. Basically, he was just using her as his he's sex slave.
Yeah, he's sick.
Yes.
He likes to obviously just torture and
absolutely
disgusting. Yeah.
The most shocking part of the whole story, however, is she was one of 3 women he held. The 2 other women he held for a decade and a year shy of a decade. He kidnapped first Michelle Knight, now known as Lily Rose Lee. He then proceeded to kidnap Amanda Berry and then Gina De Jesus. So he kidnapped Michelle in 2002. He kidnapped Amanda Berry in 2003, and then Gina in 2004. So
and then just stopped.
And held on to those three. Runs the question, has he done this before? Is that his preferred number? I mean, this guy...
Probably at that point, he's like, I can't. It's too much, right? I mean, it's...
Right.
But you're right. It 100% could be that. He knew that 3 was like the perfect number.
The confidence it would take to pull something like this off is astounding.
And it's always in the worst people who hold confidence. Just the worst.
Absolutely. So, at one point, one of the girls, Amanda Berry, became pregnant, and he either did not induce an abortion or it didn't work. But either way, she ended up carrying the baby to full term. About, I think, 4 years after Michelle was kidnapped, so about 3 years after Amanda Berry was kidnapped. So during this time, Castro demanded that Michelle help birth this child, and if it died, he would kill her. So she did a home birth.
So he's attached to this baby for some reason.
For some reason, this is the one that he's attached to. So... Or he didn't realize she had remained pregnant, and it was just to the point where he couldn't explain it away.
And it's just another form of torture.
Exactly. So she goes through the harrowing ordeal to help Amanda birth this child at his home in conditions where they had to go to the bathroom in little plastic toilets that they said were emptied infrequently. They were only allowed to shower up to 2 times a week, if that. They were only fed 1 time a day, and that's if he wasn't starving them. So in all of that, she then had to give birth to a baby at home. And Michelle was tasked with helping her birth the baby and ultimate consequence of dying if the baby died. Well, the baby goes into cardiac arrest at a certain point after the birth, and Michelle has to then resuscitate the baby.
Oh my god. This is horrific.
So they end up pulling this baby through, and the baby survives as well. And he treats the baby as if it's his own child. The baby reaches an age during this imprisonment where it starts referring to him as daddy.
Ugh.
And his mother as grandma. So his family, during this 11-year span, had visited the home multiple times, and in retrospect had observed that it was odd that many rooms were locked and closed off.
In retrospect?
And he told everyone that the baby was a child from a previous girlfriend that he had dated. And that's how he explained the baby in his life.
I'm sorry, if I went to a house that had locked rooms...
Multiple locked rooms? That would be weird. And he kept them upstairs. So these are not basement, cellar, dangerous rooms. These are the upstairs rooms that people are locked out of.
Weird.
So, interestingly enough, neighbors had actually also in this span of time called police on him for suspicious activity because they found him to be a suspicious dude.
Mm-hmm.
Understandably.
Right.
But when the police would arrive, they claimed that nobody was home. So nothing was ever actually investigated. So the police visited the home at least 1 time, admittedly, while the girls were imprisoned. And he was not home, so they could not investigate it. In 2013, one of the girls, Amanda Berry, noticed that he left the front door unlocked, which he had done in the past. But in the past, when they would go through the front door, there was a storm door, like a screen door. And if you're looking at the visuals, you can see that's the actual door that they're removing to take to investigate.
Mm-hmm.
So in the past, when they'd get through the front door that was left intentionally unlocked, they'd get to the storm door, he would then pop out, surprise them, and beat them to, like, train them not to try to escape. Well, on this day, she decided that she'd open that door and just start screaming through the storm door in just hopes that somebody could hear her. So she didn't open the outer door, she just started screaming, and a neighbor who barely spoke English found her but couldn't communicate. So at this point, she's like screaming at him, I'm Amanda Berry. I've been missing for 10 years. It's not quoted if she mentioned the other girls as of yet, but she's like trying to communicate, and this guy doesn't understand because there's a language barrier. Thankfully, by chance, another neighbor overhears and kind of sees this girl talking through the bottom of the storm door, comes over, and he's able to then communicate with her.
Oh, thank God.
So at this point, they all start breaking the bottom of the storm door open. She crawls out and immediately runs to a neighbor and calls 911. And she says, I'm Amanda Berry. I've been missing for 10 years. I'm here. I'm alive.
I've heard this 911 call.
Yes. I do not have this, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it is
Look
out there.
It's definitely, if you are not a fan of 911 calls,
it's a tough one.
It's a tough one. For me, it's not, I wouldn't call a fan. It's just like I have to hear it. You know what I mean? I'm curious. It's, yeah. So Amanda Berry and Gina De Jesus are both found alive along with Michelle Knight. When the police go into the home, they find Gina and Michelle. And when they entered, Michelle had peeked out the doorway to see who it was out of fear that it was actually Ariel Castro coming home. She sees that it's a police officer, and she runs immediately into his arms and says, you've saved me. Oh.
So on that day, Amanda Berry, Michelle Knight, Lily Rose Lee, Gina De Jesus, and Amanda Berry's 6-year-old daughter are all rescued on that day.
Talk about the poor kid, though, because they don't know any different. They're calling this guy daddy. He's technically treating the kid okay, it sounds like.
It seems as though they haven't really talked much about it. So, Lily, a.k.a. Michelle Knight, she spent 4 days in the hospital and was then released. So she was in otherwise good physical health. However, she had been beaten so badly that her mother said that she needed facial reconstruction surgeries to fix the damage to her face, and she can also no longer have children because of the damage that he did to her.
What happened to her kid?
Her kid had ended up being adopted by his foster parents, and so she didn't want to disrupt his life with all the chaos that her life had become. So she said that she does want to meet him. However, she's going to wait until he's an adult.
Oh my God. So heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just beautiful on her.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
And at the sentencing, Michelle Knight told Castro, and this is a direct quote, you took 11 years of my life away. I spent 11 years in hell. Now your hell is just beginning. I will overcome all that has happened, but you will face hell for eternity. I will live on. You will die a little every day as you think of the 11 years of atrocities you've inflicted on us. I can forgive you, but I will never forget.
Oh my God. Beautifully said.
So, although Knight has discussed some of her ordeal in a few interviews, she's been featured on a couple of television shows. She prefers to stay somewhat private. Also, she doesn't want to bring undue attention onto other individuals involved. I'm almost certain her biological son. She also legally changed her name to Lily Rose Lee, and she found love.
Yay!
And she got married. And one of the newest articles on her is talking about how she is starting to really heal through finding love.
That's amazing.
And the fact that she can just love and still be open to people is truly amazing.
I was going to say, I would be pretty...
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't be closed off to any form of physical touch, any...
emotional...
And it's
connection.
Like, are you being intimate and nice to me because you're manipulating me, brainwashing me? You know, what's the game? Why are you doing this? Would be immediate.
She had to have needed years of therapy.
Oh,
and
that's
help.
so good, though.
Yes. So her outlook on life is what I find most impressive. She chooses to be happy. She chooses to be grateful. She says that it's hard to not see the love and beauty in everything when you're locked away for so long. And she was quoted as saying, "Now I am a strong and powerful woman. I always tell people I have my flaws, I have my fears, but I'm not going to let them determine how I live my life. I am a survivor.
She's absolutely beautiful too.
She's gorgeous.
Again, if you're using our visual tools, beautiful.
So
And
that's
she really does look happy in the eyes.
She does.
Yeah.
That's cheers to a true survivor.
Cheers.
And honestly, an amazing beam of light.
Super good. Super good.
Thank you. I love that story and I love her.
I just really like that with this podcast we always just end on I'm always smiling.
Yes.
I
Me
love
too.
that.
And obviously I love the other two survivors as well. I wanted
Of course,
put that out
yeah.
there as well. I just really wanted to showcase one and give her a lot of attention. So I like how we did the whole rounded out.
Well, I think that's episode 2.
That's it.
Teqkillya With Kindness.
Teqkillya With.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of The Survivor's Cocktail.
If you haven't already, head on over to our Facebook page, give us a like, and snag yourself a free tote.
Don't forget to check out our other social media platforms and now Apple and Spotify.
Yes, please head on over, subscribe, like, give us some reviews, and tune in each week for new content.
And remember, survive and thrive, ladies and gents.